So here we are on the new adventure, Africa Twin Adventures. It's sport, I'm sorry, I don't even know the name of it. It's shocking, isn't it? But anyway, I'm on the new one, and first, I like first impressions. I like it when you first get on a bike and you're thinking, yeah, okay, you immediately sense what's different, I think, because you're so used to what's gone before. And this is a review, of course, of this bike, but I'll naturally be relating it to my 2016 Africa Twin. I can't help that, I'm sorry. Well, first impressions. First impressions are how tall it is. It feels really tall. The other thing that is a little bit tricky at the moment is my knees are sort of digging into this tank here. It's so flayed here that it's not that my knees are following the line of the tank, rather that my knees are actually hitting the sides of the tank there, and it's not that comfy. The other thing is that, I mean, that I suppose they're negatives, but they're only minor negatives. The bike feels really composed. I was just coming out of the dealers there at sort of, you know, tiny sort of speeds, which I do a lot, you know, commuting and stuff, and it just felt really, what's the word, controlled, smooth. The throttle, it's fly-by-wire throttle, feels nice and light. The clutch feels so light in comparison to mine. I'm not saying mine's heavy, but I found it a little bit tricky. It tends to get some shit and dirt in there from being off-road. The action's not great. I've had a few issues with it. This one feels lovely. The bike feels so easy to control again. The clutch feels really light. The fueling feels really nice. You know, and one thing I like about these parallel twins is that at this sort of speed you're not getting that jerkiness that you might get from a V-twin. I'm desperate just to fly down the outside of everything, and probably could, but I'm wary of the fact that I've just signed an agreement that says that I'll pay the first £2,500 of any damage, so I'm a little bit wary. That tank looks massive. One of the things that I do like about the Africa Twin and is how slim it is, because when you're taking it off-road, it feels like a sort of big off-roader. This seems to be, to me, a little bit more dedicated, or a little bit more of a touring bike. It has got modes. It's got tour, gravel and urban, I think, and it's got lots of different settings. So you've got what's P, what's EB, engine braking, traction control, P, power must be power. I don't know whether it's delivery or whatever, but it is related to power, this modes button. Mine hasn't got that, but what I do have is a throttle that you can turn and then not turn, depending on how fast you want to go, which is rather very useful. I don't know how much, you know, with 95, however many brake horsepower this is, why you generally need that. I mean, I had it on the Multistrada, a mode button, but I found it very useful because it's an animal. Yeah, feels very composed, feels broader. I feel fatter on it. Yeah, I'll kill you, mate. It feels fatter. It doesn't feel, and another thing that I love about my Africa Twin is how nimble it is through the traffic, and how slim I can get through tiny gaps. I feel a little bit more, I feel a little bit fatter on this. I don't know if I'd feel as, sorry mate. Engine note's still nice, standard exhaust, sounds even actually a little bit more, a little bit gruffer, which is nice. So I've got an hour with the bike. Brakes feel good, nice and progressive, feels snappier, a bit bitier than mine, but then mine are knocking on a bit and my pads are knocking on a bit, so there's that. The other big difference about this is it's got Bridgestones on it actually. The Dunlop Trail Max, I think they're called, came in for a lot of stick from people. I never used them because I stuck TKC 80s on mine straight away. This has got Bridgestones on it, and strangely the other bike, the DCT that they had on demo, had Dunlops on it, so I don't know what's going on. The guy at the dealers was sort of saying, you know, it's what Honda can get hold of, or I don't know about that. I mean, it feels like to me you should have a dedicated tyre, I don't know, some sort of 50-50 thing, but I don't know. I don't know what its off-road credentials are, this bike. I mean, I'm sure it'd be good off-road if it's as controlled. You've got, I think you've got greater fork travel, you've got better travel, and I think the ground clearance is better. but this is a big bike. I mean, I suppose, you know, if you're half decent off-road, you can take anything off-road, but I always think about picking the thing up, and I wouldn't fancy picking this up. This is heavier than the 2016, the one I've got, and I mean, one of the big difference, they've saved some weight apparently putting a lithium battery in it, but this tank is massive, and I think, I'm not sure, is it an extra 5 litres, I think, which is quite a lot of weight. But at the moment, my knee, I'm not happy with my knees. I don't want them hitting that tank there. I'm sorry about this, people. But I do like how composed the bike is. I do like its height, because with my size, I don't want to look like I'm on some little tiny bike. So I quite like this, but I'm honestly not joking. I can get my feet flat on the floor, so it's not that bad, is it? But really, I feel like I need to be on sort of toes when I'm sat here. The seat's on the sort of medium setting as well, it's not on the high setting. So the next things to do is get it on the open road. It's in sort of urban areas, it feels nice. It feels really easy to ride, feels very, you know, getting on this bike and setting off, you just felt very comfortable, no problems. It's probably the familiarity of the Africa Twin and mine, but I don't think it's just that. I don't think it's just that. It's a very user-friendly bike, this. Sounds nice. Where's this chap going? On my other one, I'll be darting through the traffic and stuff, but then on the other one, if I do make a mistake, it's not going to cost me £2,500 quid. So, we're out on a nice, decent open A road here. The bike's got a little bit more pep, a bit more punch, especially at sort of mid to high revs, I think. You feel it feels a better road bike, I think. I like this lofty riding position, but one of the things that you might be noticing, and it might have an effect on the mic, is just how much buffeting is hitting this helmet from the top. Can you hear me now? From the top of that screen. So when we're up, you're getting a proper pasting by that wind coming right off the top of there, right into my helmet. I don't know if you'll pick it up down here, but it's certainly up where the peak is. I've got my showy ADV on. So far, I like the bike. I like the way it feels. I do like it on road tyres, whereas I'm always on knobblies, which sets my teeth on edge sometimes when I'm go around bends. I like it. It's definitely got a bit more punch and a bit more pep, even though it's heavier. It's definitely got a little bit more. It's still, though, I just think, from my perspective, I'll just slow down so you can. From my perspective, I think they've made it heavier, they've given it a bigger tank range, which is basically saying that we're going to make this more of a sort of touring bike, really. We're going to make it better to tour. And really, if you're going to do that, you're then taking it into kind of GS territory even more, really, aren't you? But what I'd have liked to see, if you're going to make it heavy, if you're going to increase tank range, if you're going to make it more of a road-orientated or road-focused bike, why don't you give it a bit more pep? Why don't you knock it up to 125 brake? I know it's tricky, because then you might be into kind of redesigning engines or different engines and all this kind of stuff, and we're talking about a tweak here of a model, but it's peppy enough though, I suppose. God, these road tyres feel so much better than my knobblies. It's so easy to get it on its side. Nice road this. Let's see what it makes of it. Try not to crash it, Crumble. It's got a nice... I mean, the standard, my bike sounds lovely with the standard exhaust. Sounds nice, that, doesn't it? Bit vibey. Getting some vibes through the seat, particularly through the right peg. I can feel some vibes. God, I love these tyres. One of the things that I'm really enjoying is the suspension. It feels much more plush. Feels very plush. The ride is very smooth. I'm just riding the crest, and of course most British roads are in the right state, especially after the winter we've had, although I don't know if it's finished, but this feels very nice. It feels very calm, very composed. It's not shaking its head over some of these bumps. The engine's responsive. I'm just kind of rolling on and off in fifth here. It's good. I like it a lot. It looks like my bike. I'm sort of getting used to my knees being dug in here. My arse is, again, I found with my bike the seat's just not great. It's not that great, unfortunately. My arse is a little bit numb, and I do have rather a thin backside, but I'd be hoping for... The previous seat on Africa Twin was just not very good, but you can stand up on the bike, which is great. We'll stop in a sec and have a look around it, see what it's like. I'll do the does the exhaust sound good between buildings test. Yes it does. Test passed. Alright, let's have a quick look around. I'm on the clock here, so it's a big bugger to get on and off. There she is. 2018 Africa Twin Adventure. Wow. She looks great. Fantastic. Yeah, impressive looking bike. But then the original is, but this is in those colours. Apparently those colours are for this year, so don't know what's going to happen next year. But it looks a great bike. The only thing I'm not keen on is this. I don't know about this white frame and this grey thing here. No. The exhaust looks better, looks trimmer. This is much nicer, although there's apparently not a top box option yet. But that is much nicer than the original, the one that I've got on mine. Love the ride-by-wire. Lot smoother, easier, lighter. The clutch is lighter. Comes with the bells and whistles now, whereas of course I had to purchase them and stick them on the bike. So crash bars, bigger sump guard, USB socket, heated grips, which, oh there's this, I was looking for that, the switch for them. I like it a lot, but I'm not going to buy one, and the reason is that I think it's more of a road bike. I think taking this off-road, just the bulk, I mean I've stood up on the bike, it feels nice. It feels very natural, and where I've got my knees sort of sticking in as I'm sat down, they're a nice place to tuck your knees in when you're stood up. But it just doesn't, there's not enough difference to mine really. I suppose if they'd made it a bit punchier, maybe a bit lighter, I suppose. And it depends what you want. If you're looking for this bike, maybe 2-up, touring, you're going to want that bigger tank. You're going to want the probably a little bit stiffer suspension, a bit more plush ride, a bit more travel in the forks. You're going to want those things, but that's not what I really use the bike for. I also use my bike for commuting and nipping through gaps, and this is just quite bulky now. It doesn't feel feels great on the road. It's got a lovely big presence on the road, but going through lines of traffic, I'd be a little bit more wary about just the width of the bike and the feel. It's possibly not even wider, but it feels wider. Because of course your handlebars are the width of the bike, but just feels bulkier, and that can add to that feeling that it's not quite as trim. But a great looking bike. And still, I mean, for 12.5 grand, when they've added the bits, you know, it's a good price. So there she is. So I'll get back on her, take her back, take her home, and I'll give you some final impressions as we make our way home. But there she is. Lovely bike. But it just makes me still love mine, really. And I've had my bike over 2 years, which is quite a feat, as those of you who know me know. Alright, speak soon. Right. So final impressions, final thoughts. I like the bike a lot. I think it looks fantastic. It rides really nicely. It's got a lovely commanding stance. You feel lovely and high up. You feel like you're bossing the road, which I really like. It feels a little bit more grunty. You've got a nice, lovely clutch action and lovely throttle action now. Suspension feels plusher than mine. You feel a little bit more like you sat on top of the bike rather than in the bike, which is what mine feels like. I really like it. Would I buy it? No, I don't think so, because I think my bike does everything I want it to do, and I don't think this has got anything that I'm missing or that I feel I need. I quite like the better looks. I'm really not bothered about tank range. My bike, when you're sort of off-roading and you know, sort of doing the nice touring stuff, it sips at fuel, I find, and it's great on fuel, so I'm not bothered. And to be honest, the seat's so tough that you do a couple of 100 miles, you want to get off and fill it up, you want to get off the bike, so it doesn't bother me at all. What a noise hitting my helmet though. I can feel it bashing my head around. You get a headache pretty quickly. I mean, how well can you hear me in here? Can you hear that noise hitting the helmet? Fourth gear. I just wish my bike and this bike just a little bit more of a hooligan about it. I suppose maybe I should buy a KTM for that, but I just wish it was 125 brake horse, and then you could have a gravel setting that dropped you down to like 80 for your road work. I wish they'd do that. Maybe do an Africa Twin 1100. Why don't they sort of narrow it down, sleeker, less tank range, and make it look like a proper big supermoto, and make it, you know, a bit of a hooligan. I'd like that. Maybe that's not the market, and that's not who they're going to sell it to. Predominantly, these are people who be going around the Pyrenees, maybe with Julie on the back, with the panniers on, and that's their market. So that's who they've kind of gone for. But anyway, people, thanks for watching. I'm going to try and get this back. I'm going to be late. Hopefully I won't get told off. And thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in.